Who will be the league MVP inside the Pac-12 this year? It's probably two quarterbacks, right? Let's discuss. It's a Locked On College crossover between the portal and Locked On Pac-12.
You are Locked On College crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into this Locked On College crossover, Locked On Pac-12, and the portal recruiting expert and transfer portal expert, Brian Smith, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Christian Rauh, the host of Locked On Pac-12. Got a fun episode for you today. We're going to dive into the San Diego State wide receiver room because there are a ton of players to pay attention to, especially one who could make a huge jump forward in 2026. I want to get Brian's favorite players inside Fresno State's 2027 class. But first, I want to start with the new Pac-12, just a couple days away from fall camp starting, with just a few weeks away from the season beginning. And we're speaking of Fresno State. Fresno State gets their first chance against USC on Friday night, week 1. But let's talk about who could win it all as the league MVP when it's all said and done in conference. Brian, I think there are two players that lead as the front runner, and I think there are two different really solid arguments for each side. Maddox Madsen of Boise State, the quarterback, and the quarterback for Texas State in Brad Jackson. Who do you lean towards when you're thinking about this award, and why?
It's interesting because Jackson, obviously, his stats are ridiculous. Their offense, especially that offensive line, that's a serious factor. He can move, but they give him time also to hit big plays and play action. I would lean his direction, but here's the other point for Madsen. Experienced guy, Boise State wins, and they're going to have a lot of guys back. A bunch of like their production, if you look up SP Plus or whatever you want to look up, that is a very good sign for them. In the final part, like his games that he didn't play last year very well. Like Notre Dame had 4 picks. Well, it's Notre Dame secondary. He had one other game. Like 80% of his bad plays came in 2 games out of conference. In conference, I expect him to throw over 20 touchdowns and probably have like 5 picks or less. Guys that win at quarterback that people know, and it's Boise, there's probably going to be a little bias. He's going to have a chance. Now, if Jackson played for Boise, it'd be a lock, in my opinion, because his stats are going to be so good. I think he's more talented, but they couldn't win close games last year because their defense, quite honestly, failed them a lot.
True.
Defense needs to help him, as goofy as that sounds, because people pick teams and players from winning teams like the Heisman. Like when Manziel won the Heisman, they still lost 3 games. He had to have an unreal season and beat Alabama on the road to win with 3 losses. Like he barely won it despite what he did. I think there's a little bit of bias in that too. I would lean Jackson, but do not be surprised if Madsen ends up winning it.
Yeah, I mean, I love that defensive take there because I'm in the same boat when it comes to that. If your defense allows all these points in the world and you're always playing from behind as a quarterback, you become one-dimensional, and then you can't unlock yourself. You can't play the way you want to play. You can't play freely, and that hurts you. That hurts you as a team. That hurts you as a player. That hurts you as being seen as an MVP in this league because you're likely to throw more turnovers or make bad decisions because you have to try and find a way to play maybe hero ball if that's the case. And when you think about Texas State, yeah, the concern on that defense is truly there. They hire a new defensive coordinator this year to try and figure things out. Yeah, they have a lot of supporting cast around Brad Jackson, bringing back 2 1,000-yard receivers and Chris Don Jr. and Bo Sparks. But I do think that if the defense isn't living up to the expectations, it could detriment the offensive side for the Bobcats. On the flip side, though, when you're thinking about Boise State and Maddox Madsen, I'm in a love-hate relationship with him right now heading into the season. and I am. And let me explain why. Last year, obviously, he did throw some turnovers, and I'm glad that you made that caveat that most of them did happen outside of Mountain West play. And he's going to have to do that, obviously, right off the bat when he plays teams like Oregon and stuff initially on the season. He has a chance to get right. And really just, if they win that game, awesome, of course. But as long as he doesn't play, bad protect the football, I think that'll help him with his confidence moving into Pac-12 play. But last year, he wasn't the same player as he was the year before. And I'm sure it's probably easy to understand why, or at least make an assumption why he wasn't the same player. He didn't have Ashton Jeanty in his backfield. He didn't have Ashton Jeanty as his running back last year, and he had to make more decisions. He had to be more responsible for the offense. Well, he's not going to have him again this year in 2026. He does have two really good running backs, a good duo, maybe the best duo inside the Pac-12 with Gaines and Riley. But to me, I'm hoping he could take that step forward. And until he can prove to me that he can take that step forward, even with the defensive question marks I have for Texas State, I think Brad Jackson deserves the nod as my preseason pick for Pac-12 MVP, Brian.
I don't have any problem with that. I'm curious if anybody else, it's the new Pac-12. Like there could be somebody from Utah State, whatever. I'm sure with Washington State's new coaching staff, they're probably going to have a player in that. Denegal at San Diego. So there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah.
But Jackson's numbers were ridiculous. Again, if they just get moderate improvement on defense, and he doesn't have to play hero ball, well, his stats may actually come down a teeny bit, but the record might go up by 3 wins. As goofy as it sounds, I've been in the booth with sports writers. I know you have to like that. They pick winning teams, and it's dumb. The Heisman is the best player on a winning team award, usually at quarterback. It's dumb. I don't think it's quite as bad with conference MVPs. It could be a receiver, but it's got to be somebody that is just like 1,400 yards or something to do that. Jackson, though, is dynamic. They've got a fun coach. He's a great guy. He's probably the head and shoulders above everybody else leader based on his stats if they win. They don't have to win the league, but they got to be like top 3. And with him back there, if they get any defense, they should be right there. I don't know if they'll beat Boise or anything, but they should be in contention. They'll have a chance. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I think if it's not a quarterback, because I do think it's most likely a quarterback. This is usually when we think MVP, quarterback is usually the award these days. But if it's not, the Pac-12 has a ton of great running backs this year. Lucky Sutton of San Diego State comes to mind right off the bat. Yeah, if there's a running back that's going to win the award, that's usually who comes to mind. But I think there are two, if you want to even call them dark horses, but I think there are 2 dark horses running backs that you could put in the conversation as well. Rayshawn Luke of Fresno State. I think he's fantastic. He's going to share some carries though, so that makes me maybe a little bit cautious. But that running back room is going to have to pick up the slack of a potential quarterback battle, which I think is one of the most concerning in the country with, the lack of production, the lack of any type of proof of concept that we've seen so far from any of these new Fresno State quarterbacks, likely Christian Martin starting at that spot. And then the same kind of conversation over at Washington State with Kirby Voorhees. I think that they're going to have to fill the void. They're going to really focus on the running back room because of the retention they brought back. Obviously, we saw what Kirby Moore did with Ahmad Hardy at Mizzou last year. I think that running back room takes a step forward for the Cougs. And of course, having a young quarterback in Caden Pinnock who is going to take that step and need that step, I think you're going to need a running back room to help you out as well. But I'm going to go with Brad Jackson. I'm going to lock that in as my preseason Pac-12 MVP pick. Brian, if you had to plant your flag on one player, I know we kind of went back and forth. Are you going with Jackson? You go with Madsen, or you going with someone else?
I'll go with Jackson just because I trust G.J. Kinney and his staff to at least make that defense better. I'm sure Jackson will improve in some capacity, but I really don't think it's him improving. It's the defense just giving him more opportunities to win games. Yeah. I think it's a low-hanging fruit answer, but I'm going Jackson.
No, I like that. I like low-hanging fruit. It's okay if it's right. If it's right. We'll see. If you're right, we'll see if we're both right. We'll see if somebody else steps up, or maybe somebody that's just completely changes the game. That could be really fun as well. On the other side, let's talk about some future players that could change the game. That's Fresno State 2027 recruiting class. We're going to give our favorite 3 players in the class. We'll do that next on this crossover, Locked On Pac-12 and the Portal. But first, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed Sponsored Jobs. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employees with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certification, and location, so less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute that we've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. You have to find a way to get the right hires. We just talked about Texas State and the potential of, Brad Jackson being the MVP. Well, they just hired a brand new running back coach with big experience coming from the Chargers, coming from USC, Utah, now heading to Texas State. Those hires could change the way a team works. And you have to make sure that you're firing in all cylinders, especially inside this new Pac-12. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is the job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show, whether it's Locked On Pac-12 or the portal, will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get the job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support either one of our shows by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. But if you need to hire, this is the job for Indeed sponsored jobs. This show is also sponsored. Yeah, that's right, by Game Time. There are more live events than ever before worth seeing, whether it's games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend, or if you have the time to do it, it's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why many fans are turning to Game Time. I know I do. It's the app that's built in to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive saving opportunities to help you get the events you want without that usual hassle. That is my biggest frustration on buying tickets today, where you go in, you find these perfect seats, Brian. I'm telling you what, you find the ones that got the aisle seat. You don't have to get into, I'm a big guy. You don't have to get into the middle and squeak through, say, excuse me, I'm sorry. And no, you find them. But then they say that tickets almost double the price when you get the checkout. Well, with Game Time, that doesn't happen. They take the guesswork out of it. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, welcome back to the show. It's the Portal and Locked On Pac-12, and we're going to dive a little bit into some recruiting. Got to talk recruiting when Brian Smith comes on for a college crossover over here. And last week we discussed our three favorite for San Diego State. Let's keep the tradition alive, and let's talk about our three favorite recruits for the Fresno State class. Brian, where do you want to start first?
I want to go with the traditional stance of the guy that's under the radar for a G6 school. Like the Pac-12 is rebuilding. This is the kind of recruit that you need to hit on to make it happen. And I hope I pronounced this right. Manese Brown. He's listed as an offensive tackle, but he could play other spots. Like he played tight end, he played defensive line. He's an athlete. A lot of offensive tackles in the NFL started out as tight ends or defensive linemen. As they got bigger, they eventually moved to the offensive line. He's 6'5", 6'6". He can bend. He can change direction. I don't know exactly where he's going to play. I assume it'll be offensive tackle at the next level. But if they played him at D tackle, it wouldn't shock me. And this, again, like he's not a surefire thing. That's why he's not headed to USC or something. But the way he moves says high-end program. He just doesn't have the experience at offensive tackle, which is a premium spot. But I think this is a guy that could end up in the NFL. He has the DNA to do it. Good scouting. Sometimes you got to take a few chances, especially at critical spots, because there aren't that many guys that are his size that move like he does. This is one of those guys that probably has a chance to play as a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, 6'7", 280 pounds. You think about what position that he might go into. Like, okay, yeah, he's considered an offensive tackle / edge. So depending on which way that he goes towards, it makes you wonder how much size you're going to put on, if anything, after being 6'7", 280. That's quite interesting. He did have a ton of offers. He did take a couple official visits as well to a couple Power 4 schools and Fresno State. So it shows that that Matt Entz did a really good job at recruiting here, because he won him over BYU and Arizona State on those official visits. He also had 15 total offers that included Utah, UCLA, Oregon, Nebraska, and a couple other Pac-12 schools as well: San Diego State, Utah State, Colorado State, Washington State, Boise State. So not only is Matt Entz winning in conference to arguably one of their top recruits in the class, but they're winning against other Power 4 schools. Looking at his size, if you moved him to offensive tackle, is 6'7", 280 big enough to play at? I feel like you got to add maybe a little bit more size.
Well, I mean, everybody adds 20, 30 pounds in college, whether they're playing something or not. It's kind of how that works. So I'm not worried about it. A lot of guys come in 260, 270 to college and end up playing at 300. he's going to redshirt. I know there's the 5 for 5, but like he's not going to play much his first year. But the difference between Brown, his freshman and second year, will probably be massive. Give a young man with that kind of frame a year in the weight room, that's going to change what he can do. I think he'll be a 300-pound guy, probably play tackle, maybe even left tackle if he takes to his craft. It's a big if, but he has the frame to do it and the quickness, the natural bend as well.
Number 5 kid in the state of Utah. How important does that you feel that is if you're winning over Utah and BYU and Utah State, Fresno State taking? That's pretty big. I feel like that's a big move there.
I was surprised by that. That seemed a bit odd, but in recruiting, I mean, anything is possible. I mean, sometimes kids, they go to schools, you're just like, really? That is the town where you're going to school. It's the rival. Like, you know what I mean? Like those things happen. I don't know why, but I wonder if he has a really good year. Some of those Utah schools don't try to flip his decision.
That's something that I think, I've taken some gripe for this, and I'm going to say it again because I do think it's still important. I feel like the Pac-12 should embrace the new 5 for 5 in a way where they can get these younger players in, maybe offer them playing time a lot earlier. And if that does mean eventually they leave in the portal for other power schools afterwards, fine. But I feel like they can give you a strategic advantage. Players like this, after winning these battles against in-state recruits, remind me of that. Like win those, find the way to win those. So then you can put those on your resume, put them on, look where we won, look where we've done. And we've been able to develop these players. Did they move on? Yeah, surely. Maybe they did, or they decide they like the place. It's a gamble you're willing to take. But maybe if you can't offer that, you don't get even in the room in the first place. So I think that's something they have to find a way to market themselves at.
100% agree. You need the guys that have the talent, but sometimes they need a year or so to really show top-end production. You're not getting the 5-star kid that Ohio State offered. That's just reality. You have to find guys with similar physical traits, but they're not as polished, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, I like that. All right, where do you want to go to next? How about Bayon Harris, the athlete out of Fresno, California? Matt Entz has done a really good job at winning inside the Valley. He's a really fun player to pay attention to.
Bayon's a big kid. He's over 200 pounds. He'll probably play receiver / flex tight end. One of his best plays on film, he takes his hand on top of the helmet of a guy trying to tackle him and smashes him into the ground. Like he's a power player despite being a receiver. Really strong. There's a play where he gets lit up in the middle of the field and he bounces off of him like a rubber band. He's a little different. Most receivers don't play like he does, but he's not a true burner. He's a possession receiver with a ton of size. It just physically imposes his will. It's so weird to say that about a receiver, but it's true. And in the pack, there aren't going to be many DBs that can do much with him. Red zone, they might even use him as an H-back and just throw it to him in the flat and let somebody try to tackle him. He's going to be 215, 220 at least. That's a very unique matchup problem. Even at the P4 level, a guy like this is a matchup problem in red zone, 3rd down, 4th down. Strong hands, powerful guy, doesn't get tackled by the first defender. Give me those guys anywhere. I mean, he could play at Utah. He could play at Arizona State. Yeah. Nice pickup for Fresno.
Yeah, he's staying at home, which is awesome. I think he's going to be a fan favorite when he gets the opportunity to play. He won he chose Fresno State over Arizona State, UCLA, some big time schools as well. His numbers are off the chain when you go to his high school numbers. Last year in his junior season, 86 receptions for over 1,700 yards and 26 touchdowns. In the state championship game where he helped lead his high school Central East to a 14-1 record, 11 catches for 173 yards and a touchdown to win the state championship. I mean, that's just awesome stuff to see. And hopefully he can continue that over in Matt Entz's system at Fresno State for sure. And maybe it's this guy throwing passes to him, and that's Coulter Tannehill, another big guy, 6'6", 235. That's a quarterback build, no doubt about it. They're going to have a really fun quarterback battles over the next couple of years with a guy like Tannehill and Deegan Rose and things like that. But Tannehill, an interesting player inside the 2027 class, Brian.
Size, arm strength, decent mobility. And to be honest with you, he kind of brings you back to like 1990s football. Kind of reminds me like an old school Michigan quarterback under Lloyd Carr with maybe slightly better mobility. But he's got the arm that you need to make some difficult throws. I don't know what kind of offense they want to run long term, but he can be in your shotgun and just throwing it around. He could probably run a little RPO. I don't know how much you want a guy with that kind of arm getting hit, but he has the ability to make plays down the field, sure, but getting outside the pocket and extending play so you can get the ball to Bayon or somebody else is also important. If he understands the playbook, and this is always the bottom line, playbook in post-snap reads, it's same for every quarterback, then he's got a chance to be a multi-year starter. Can't teach the size, can't teach the arm. Really talented player. It's going to be up to him. Not many guys like him are going to be in the Pac-12, I'm guessing. Not that kind of size. That is the kind of kid that went to UCLA. He's like Troy Aikman size. So he's a big dude.
I like that. Yeah, I like big quarterbacks. I like large contested receivers, and Fresno State has both of those heading into 2027. Yes, so exciting for me, no doubt about that, and definitely exciting for Fresno State fans. On the other side, let's go to San Diego State. Let's talk about Sean Lewis's wide receiver room. There are some players who could make a huge step forward, and maybe the deepest wide receiver class or deepest wide receiver room in the conference. We'll discuss that next to finish up this show. It's a Locked On College crossover, Locked On Pac-12 and the portal. But first, before season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who will win the division? Who will make the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform. You can trade those predictions in a live market. Before the show, I had to ask you, I didn't know who your favorite NFL team was. You're an Indianapolis Colts fan. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so we're completely different here. But here we go. The Buffalo Bills have a 9% chance at making the Super Bowl, at winning the Super Bowl. That means that if you put $100 in, you have a max payout opportunity of winning over $1,100, Brian. That's absolutely insane. And it gets even better for your Indianapolis Colts. If you feel like you believe in miracles, if you believe in Danny Dimes yet again, and you put $100 on the Indianapolis Colts winning the whole thing, you could win over $4,600 on Kalshi to make it happen. So check out Kalshi. You're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. As the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get up to $500 in bonus credits when you trade $25. KALSHI, Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirement apply. Event contracts trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. All right, final few minutes here on this Locked On College crossover between Locked On Pac-12 and the portal. And I thought it'd be a fun time to bring in a little San Diego State action into this mix. And let's talk about the wide receiver room. I think it's such a fascinating position for San Diego State this year. You get Jaden Denigal, who should be healthy this year after suffering from that shoulder injury that limited him all season long last year. Earlier this episode, we already talked about Lucky Sutton, how we think he could be a potential MVP in this scenario. The offense is going to be humming for San Diego State. Everything works right, especially with this wide receiver room. We could talk about the Jordan Napiers of the world. We can talk about some of the Bert Emanuel Juniors, which we will, the Donovan Browns, but Jacob Bostick is a player that could take a huge step forward in 2026, Brian.
Size, athleticism, player that could do some things in the red zone that maybe some other guys didn't. He's played at Iowa, he's played at Texas A&M. Only had 11 receptions last year, but 3 touchdowns. Look, this is the same thing we were talking about when we were bringing up Bayon Harris for Fresno. Mm-hmm. There are certain guys just in red zone circumstances, you can all but tell the other team what you're going to do, and it's going to be difficult because you can't just put 2 DBs out wide side of the field when you're at the 3-yard line. If you want to throw a fade or a slant, it's one-on-one against a guy that is larger than you. He's roughly 200 pounds. He's 6'3". If they can get a chemistry, Denigal and him get chemistry going, that could be a really dangerous combination. And because he's not as well known as the other guys, he's probably going to get single coverage in general. So I'm curious to see how they use him. Are they going to use him in the slot, in motion? Are they going to use him as an H-back in different situations? There's a million ways you can do stuff, and Sean Lewis is very creative. Now can you find a way to make that a big part of your offense, even if it's a distraction, to try to help him get somebody else open, which that would surprise me. All because we both know that Lewis is a guy that's creative. Maybe he does that to try to get Bert Emanuel open. I don't know. They'll figure it out, but that's the piece that's unusual because of his natural size at 6'3".
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him play. Honestly, this entire wide receiver room with this Aztec fast offense that took a huge step forward last year, going into like really the second year with Denegal and the second year in the system. I know Sean Lewis has been there for a little bit longer than 2 seasons, but it feels like year 2 based on the returning talent. I'm super excited to see how it looks. Jordan Napier obviously is a big-time receiver. Him returning this year was huge, not leaving in the portal. Donovan Brown, another big-time receiver as well. I am really high on Bert Emanuel Jr. as well, the senior wide receiver that's making that move from quarterback over to wide receiver. His dad played wide receiver in the NFL. He's going to play at San Diego State. Some huge, fun wide receivers this year. You add that in with Denegal and Lucky Sutton, excuse me. You're going to be in a really, really good shape. And I think San Diego State is a Pac-12 contender if this wide receiver room lives up to expectations.
I think that is very true. They might be the best. Well, they'll be the most exciting probably offense in the league other than maybe Texas State. But the way they use the combination, I mean, like your running back being Sutton helps a lot. Yeah. But having these guys in combination, like if they get going, you're literally going to be guessing as the coordinator going against them, hey, man, did we put the extra guy in the box? Especially if Denegal runs around a little bit. I don't know how much they'll run him with his shoulder, but Lucky is going to get his touches, obviously. In the screen game and stuff, they're going to definitely use it with Sean. I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic and just so curious to figure out how Jaden Denegal is going to respond and talk about his shoulder as soon as fall camp starts next week. That's going to be a big talking point. There's no doubt about that heading into the season. If he's 100%, then, I mean, watch out for San Diego State. One thing that I will say, we talked about all the key weapons. How will this offensive line for San Diego State look like? They have a new offensive line coach with Mike Schmidt moving on. I think he's now the offensive line coach at Kansas State. And now Bill O'Boyle is going to take over as the offensive line. He's also the run game coordinator as well. Who takes that step forward? Who can make sure that happens? That's obviously a big position to pay attention to as well. Brian, where can everybody find your work? You are busy, man. You are always going live. I was finishing dinner the other night. I turned up YouTube and you were live. You were talking about portal stuff. You're always talking the portal and transfer portal. It never sleeps for you, does it?
Not really. Not really. We do a live show Sunday through Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. It is about recruiting, transfer portal, and since fall camps are getting going, talking about some of the teams that have a chance to win, what we like, what we don't, what portal additions they had, etc. I even did a show last night about 2028 recruiting because it's already kicked off. So check out the Portal podcast. It is going to be fun.
I'm excited to talk 2028. Let's get through 2027 first. Let's get through that in some fall camp over the next couple of weeks, you and I. But I'm real excited to dive into the 28 as well. Should be some really fun, especially after 1 year in the new Pac-12. Please like the video. Please subscribe. This has been a Locked On College crossover between the Portal and Locked On Pac-12.